my first client raised $5 million. She paid me $5,000 and raised $5 million. And was kind of off to the races after that. Oh, this is so boring. I'm never going to invest in this company. And by the end of the pitch, I was like, take my money. Her roadmap was so tight and polished. She had such great...
Laurel Mintz is a powerhouse at the intersection of marketing and venture capital. As the founder and CEO of Elevate My Brand, she spent the last 17 years leading award-winning campaigns that help brands break through the noise and drive measurable growth. Among her clients are iconic names like Verizon, Facebook parent company Meta, and Squishmallows. She's also a general partner at Fabric Venture Capital, where she invests in the next generation of consumer tech, health, and fintech startups.
My Wild Why is about changing the face of venture, bringing more women and diverse funders to the table so that we can change who we invest in and how we invest in a global economy.
Who or what made you believe in yourself enough to, shrug off the odds of starting a business and decide to go out on your own?
I would say probably my father. It's a perfect segue into this conversation. I was raised very much, I would say, more like a boy than a girl. I was always into cars. My dad used to test me on what cars were on the road, what makes and models they were. I played every sport imaginable, and I was never taught that there were any limitations because of my gender or otherwise. And then when I went to law school, after I went to law school and business school, I ended up taking over his company at 26. And that was my first foray into entrepreneurship, kind of under the company that he'd built. And it's been just off to the races since then.
And do you have siblings?
I do. I have a younger sister. She's 6 years younger than me. She is pregnant with the first grandchild right now. We're very excited.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
And in another interview, you said that during the time you were operating the Basset Furniture Stores at 26, that you, quote, cried every day. What were the challenges that were making you cry every day at that time?
I always like to be a little more transparent probably than most, because I think we are taught to put on a brave face and really only show up in a certain way. And so when I tell the story, I like to tell the fact that it was very upsetting on many levels, right? My dad, at the time, we thought was dying. He had stage 4 bladder cancer, which he survived, thank goodness.
Oh, wow.
So the emotional side of that, along with the, being the youngest person in the entire company and the youngest woman, was a lot of pressure. And I was brought in to make sure that my family could survive emotionally and financially. And on a 26-year-old fresh out of school, pretty much, I'd only practiced for a year at that point. It was a lot of pressure. And so I would sit in my car and I would cry, and then I would wipe the tears away, and okay, what are the numbers? What are we doing today? And I would, buck up and get shit done.
And those days or moments when you had doubt, how did you rally? Did you rally from your heart, your head, both? Was there someone that inspired you? Did you inspire yourself? How did that work for you?
Many martinis, I will tell you. Many martinis inspired me to get over that. No.
Stirred or shaken?
So that's the secret to entrepreneurship, folks. Martinis.
Shaken. No, now we got it done.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, martinis. I didn't know any other option, right? I got thrust into this role.
Right.
I took it very seriously. I've always been the leader in my family as the eldest child. So it wasn't an option. There was no other option for me.
And if you had to come back, would you choose to be the oldest again the next time you come?
Oh, that is a really interesting question. Yeah, probably. I like to be in control.
Right.
But it's certainly a more easeful life being the youngest. I set the standard. My parents tried all the things on me first, and then my sister got away with murder. But yeah, almost literally. Yeah, she has all the piercings, all the things, and I was straight and narrow, good kid.
Right. The oldest usually are.
What made you want to be a lawyer?
Ever since I was 5 years old, my dad, before he ran the Basset stores, he was in import and export, and he would tell me these stories about traveling to Paris and Italy and all these amazing travels that he went on. And I remember so vividly this one story. He was on a plane with this couple in first class, and they were all drinking champagne together, and it was this couple, and they were both international attorneys, and he just made it sound so romantic and fancy. And I was like, at 5 years old, I was like, that's what I'm going to be when I grow up. I'm going to be an attorney. And so I clearly had no concept of what that actually meant. And at 5 years old, 6 years old and beyond, I was like, everyone was like, all little kids were like, I'm going to be a ballerina. I'm going to be a fireman. I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. And everyone was like, oh no. Yikes. Just a huge yikes.
Well, doesn't that say a lot about you that you became a lawyer?
I'm a follow-through kind of gal, for sure.
Yeah.
It's we just bought a piece of land in Todos Santos, Mexico, and we're building our dream retirement house from dirt. And every time I would tell people, like, we're going to go do this, and then like 3 to 4 months later, we did it, and they're like, oh, you actually did it? And I was like, yeah, I do what I say I'm going to do. I follow through.
Right.
People were like shocked that we actually did that. I don't get it. I guess most people don't. I guess that's a takeaway.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask why you think most people don't.
I think people have good intentions and a lack of follow through. And I think they're also afraid to ask for help or say they don't know something, and they don't surround themselves with people to help them solve whatever problem is blocking them from doing the thing they said they were going to do. I've never had that problem. I've always put really great teams around me. I'm very clear about my skill set and what I'm great at, and also what I'm not great at. And so, I don't say things. Things don't come out of my mouth that I don't follow through on. Otherwise, I just don't, I won't waste my breath.
I tell Julius all the time, when you're putting together your team, you don't have to really like every member on the team. Just what you said. You have to be totally clear what your skill set is, and then you hire people for those areas that you're not the best at. And a lot of times,
Absolutely.
their personalities don't mesh with yours. That doesn't matter. Just get the best. So she's living it.
Ooh, I don't know if I would argue that it would, that I like everyone on my team. I like some more than others, obviously, but for me, especially in a small, it's different when you're running a huge company. Of course, I agree with you. But when you're running a small team and it's a very intimate experience and relationship, I do think liking people is important. I think the other side of that as a CEO is that you're not always going to be liked, and that has to be okay.
So I'll say my takeaway is this. The people you surround yourself, your immediate direct reports, you should like them. But the people that you may not necessarily have the most contact with, but that will compensate for your skills and get things done at a larger scale. Does that seem like a good takeaway?
I think that's like 90% there. Yeah, I'm also like a culture building kind of person. So for me, the human elements are really important. And that's both on the internal company side and how I built, my two companies is really about external relationships and being very intentional about that. So to me, culture is everything. And so I think people really matter to me. And you can see it, like in those rooms, Julius, that we were in, like most of those people were so asleep. And then we met each other and we were like awake and alive, and we had this great conversation, and it was super exciting. And so there's just like an energy when you are around the right people.
Absolutely. And it seems like people are the most important thing.
They are.
Yeah, definitely. For me, at least in my career, my short career.
Yeah.
Can I tell one story?
Sure.
He's starting the timer. I went to consult for one of my friends for 18 months. And my biggest enemy, who thought I went there to, I don't know, usurp her position and place in the hierarchy, was actually crying the day I left. And she tried to sabotage everything that I did for the company. And with the exception of one person,
You're too close.
we placed every single person. I hired an incredible outsourcing company. They got everyone a job. But I knew, and you'll understand, these people were not part of the culture. They didn't get it. I didn't really understand why they were there. And I never walked into a place where, oh my God, I felt suffocated in the company. And you can usually tell the minute you go to the receptionist what the culture is and what everybody's going to be like. And everybody was so depressed. And they called it, the name of the company, 20. No matter who joined the company, they'd end up gaining 20 pounds because they were so unhappy at the company. So I knew most people had to go, but I wanted to make sure they got placed in another company. And all but one person got placed. Fast forward last day, and this person is like crying. And I said, this should be the happiest day of your life. I said, I'd be here for 18 months and I'm leaving. And she said, I didn't believe you. I thought you were here and wanted to take over. I said, no worries. I may have acted like I wanted to take over, but we had to get this done. And she said, if you weren't here, I was going to leave. But you made me stay. And that was it for me. I actually made her want to stay at the company. And when I left, and it wasn't because of me. I invested in all of those people. I was just the mouthpiece. I just took what everybody needed, all the problems they told me. They'd been there 10, 15 years. I didn't have that experience. And that was an incredible lesson to me and always made me invest money and time in the people in the company. So,
yeah. I had an experience like that at my agency many years ago when we were like 25 people and we were going through a really big kind of growth phase. And the people that were with me from the beginning, that were with me at that time, 8 years later, were not the right people for that time and space. And it had that same energy of like everyone was really unhappy. And I found myself waking up and not wanting to go into the office.
Right.
And I woke up one day and I kind of like had this aha moment and I was like, wait a minute, this is if I don't want to go in, then no one else wants to be here and nobody's going to want to work with, we got to fix this. It was a quick kind of realization. And so I did similarly. I went in and I went to every single one of my teammates. I said, are you happy here? Most of them said no, which broke my heart.
Right.
And we did a full turnaround and rebuilt the team with people who really wanted to be there. And we exited the rest of the team onto other roles. So it was one of my hardest lessons for sure.
And Laurel, I had to tell the owner of the company, I'll take the job, but you have to be absent.
Okay.
You cannot be here because everything trickles down. And that was part of the problem from the top. I'm not a divide and conquer person. I want everyone together.
Same.
So after going through that experience with your team, why was everyone unhappy and what did you have to change?
We had changed our client base. So we were a really scrappy young team originally. This was 8 or 9 years into the company. We had bigger clients with a lot bigger expectations, bigger budgets. And the team that was the startup team was not the growth team. So it was just not a fit anymore at that stage. And they were not able to evolve into new roles. And that's why everyone was unhappy because I was trying to push them to evolve as the agency was evolving. And they were unable to do that because they saw themselves in these very focused roles that they'd been in for 7, 8 years. And that's when it was time for them to move on. The fact that they were there that long with me was, I think, a testament to what we built, but it was also really important to see when it was time for them to move on and for us to rebuild a team that had what we needed for the next growth phase.
I absolutely want to get into that more, especially launching brain fog moment. excuse me,
Fabric.
EMB, Elevate My Brand.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Sorry. Especially launching Elevate My Brand, but I want to back up for 1 second. You talk about in another interview having gone through bankruptcy, selling the company back to Basset Corporate. What were your biggest takeaways from going through that time?
Gee, thanks for bringing that up. No, I'm kidding.
Sorry.
Again, I like to be super transparent. No, I love it. And you've done your homework, and I love that. And I speak about this very openly because, again, I think people put a pretty polish on things, and that's not my vibe. I want to be super transparent so that other people know that they can do exactly what I did, that I'm not special in any real way. I just had a path, and I followed that path, and I asked for help and built the right teams. But what that taught me, unfortunately, was that my dad was a really great connector, people person, schmoozer, all the skill set that I got from him. And he was a terrible operator. He should never have gone in on that company. And he was over leveraged. And that's ultimately why they had to declare bankruptcy. And he really was not smart in a lot of ways and didn't lean into what his core skill set was. He thought he could build something beyond his means, and he didn't have that skill set, and he didn't surround himself with the right people to do that. So he just kept throwing money at the problem, and that was not the solution in this case. But I will say that that's what led me ultimately into launching Fabric, was because when I started making money at the agency, I realized that I had this like bag lady syndrome. I had this fear around money and what it could mean for me, because my parents clearly didn't teach me that, and my dad didn't have that skill set. And so that's when I joined a women's investment group, started learning about investing and venture, and ultimately, I think it's what's made me a really good operator on the GP side.
The 2% and 25% numbers are really astounding. We're going to get to that in a minute. But a lot of people say that entrepreneurs who have been through their first bankruptcy or their first failure, when they bounce back, are so much more resilient, and that actually investors will tend to be more willing to give them money. I mean, especially the WeWork person who's still somehow able to raise money despite everything he did. Do you find that to be true, that entrepreneurs who have been through a bust take away a lot and bounce back better if they can?
I think if you haven't been through the shit, you haven't learned the lessons you need to learn to be able to see how to avoid it in the future, right? Like you step in it once, you're like, oh, that's what that looks like. Got it. I understand what that is and how to avoid it, or how to solve for that better, or how to see it before I step in it, right? Whereas I think most kind of newbie founders who haven't been through anything, haven't seen the ups and downs, don't necessarily know how to build lasting companies. So yeah, I really like a multi-time founder. I like a founder that has a little grit under their nails. It's not always the case, right? There's a lot of super smart people out there that have built successful companies from their first jump, but I'd say that's probably the rare case if they're being really truthful. I think Warren Buffett talks about that all the time.
What do you look for in the founders that you'll invest in at Fabric? What separates the founders that win or get to the 8, 10x exits or 6 IPOs? What separates those founders from the founders who will ultimately fail?
I think, well, I have a visceral reaction when I know a founder is a good fit. It's a very weird thing, and I share this again openly. The backs of my knees start to sweat when I find a founder that I'm like, oh my God, this person is special. Like I actually have a physical reaction. I know it's very strange.
Not strange at all.
On top of it, we do all of our, pardon?
Not strange at all.
No? Okay.
I think ultimately,
I think it's part of my gut intuition,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But on top of that, of course, we do all of our diligence and making sure that we think that this founder's solving a real problem, that they're the right person to do it, that they maybe have gone through some shit and they understand how to be stronger on the other side, and they're not they're ambitious, but they're realistic, right? Like when I see a deck that has these stupid numbers in it, like they're pre-revenue and they're projecting 100 million in 2 years. I'm like, come on. Like, that's just not realistic. And they don't have a roadmap to get there. Like, it's one thing if they have a roadmap and you're like, wow, this is very clear. You understand how you're going to do, 0 to 60. But most of the time you just see founders that have a little too much braggadociousness, a little too much, I don't know, piss and vinegar, and not enough to back it up. So for me, it's about a founder that's the right fit for this solving of a real problem, that they've had some experience, that they can answer really hard questions. And also, it's okay to say, I don't know, right? Founders that think that they have the right answers all the time are totally full of shit. So I love it when someone says, you know what? I haven't thought about that. I don't know, but I'm going to find the answer. I have so much respect for that.
Can you think of an example of a founder that you've worked, you don't have to name names or anything like that, or you can if you like, but a founder that you've worked with and how the whole pitch went and what made it a good fit? Can you tell the story?
Ooh, that's like picking from my children. You're going to make me do this.
You didn't have to name names. You could just say, I like this one.
Well, I'm very honored to be able to invest in so many incredibly unique companies, but the one that I think is the most interesting is a company, and I will name names because I want to give them their flowers. The company is called Chipin, and they originated as a pet food brand. And then the founder realized that the challenge in pet foods was the ingredients of protein, and that most proteins were coming from China. Enter the tariff issue. They also found out that there are all these bodies of water that have whitefish that are predatory, and the states will pay you to take the fish out of the water to make sure that the other species can survive. So she pivoted. She kept her high margin snack pet category to create brand awareness, and she moved to, I believe it was Mississippi, to cull this fish out of the water, get paid by the state to do it. She's grinding it into protein and has a huge contract with a Purina. Like the pivot, the idea, the execution of it, I was like, I didn't even know this was an issue. I didn't know the proteins came from China. Your time and place is perfect. And you've got these relationships with a company that we hope will eventually acquire them. And I was like, oh. And then also smart enough to keep the high margin piece that she had built for brand awareness and visibility. Just super smart founder.
And you said, what was her name? I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, I'm so terrible with names.
Oh, okay.
No, the company.
No. The founder's name.
Oh, the name of the company is Chipin, Chippin.
Yes, the name of the founder.
And it's Haley Russell.
Haley Russell. Perfect. When Haley came to you with her pitch, what made her pitch stand out? What made you think it was worth investing in?
It was a warm intro from another person who had invested, so that's always a good warm up. I believe we were close to the last checks in on that round, which is part of our thesis, right? It's a fund one, and I've never done this before, so I wanted to make sure that I was making smart investments, and to me that means kind of riding the coattails of other VCs who have already done their diligence, and they're like, we need you to come in and close the round out, or the round is oversubscribed, or we need a VC that specifically has marketing expertise where you can add value. So initially when she came to me, she already had significant backing. She had this amazing story about pivoting into this new protein category and pivoting into being an ingredients company from a CPG brand, which I don't know if I've ever met a founder that's done that. So when someone is the first, the best, the only, that's kind of marketing 101 to me. If you can do something that shocks me and surprises me, you've got my attention. And so just the storytelling, the narrative around what she did and how she did it was everything to me. And then the numbers made sense after that. Of course, we do all the traditional financial and founder diligence, but I'm a marketer. The story just got me. I was leaning in the whole time, didn't want the time to end. And usually I'm so bored with founder pitches. I'm like, can this be over 10 minutes ago, please? But she was amazing.
Yeah, you must see hundreds of them. What do the people get wrong that make the ones that okay. Out of the thousands that you see, the ones that people get wrong, what do they do that makes them wrong? What makes you wish they were done 10 minutes ago? Other than the BS projections.
Yes. Bad decks in general, like someone who hasn't had their deck polished or looked at by a marketing team or marketing person, brand person. It's not hard. You could even, most of the GPT models now can support polishing your pitch deck. So bad visuals, typos, anything like that, it's just like, ugh, so cringy. Even spacing errors, my brain just picks up on those. And I was like, really, that's a detail you could really have fixed. But really it's about, even if that was the case, if it's a great concept and a great founder, I can overlook it. But usually it's, you're just so friggin' boring. I don't want to listen to you talk. You're not the right person to pitch this product. Usually they have big egos. Like we've had people that have just been so uptight and pitched, and they don't like that we don't invest in non-diverse founders. That's been a big issue, but mostly it's just like the energy around who's pitching. Sometimes they're just not the right person. Like they're just not, it's about self-awareness. If I can like boil it down, they just don't have self-awareness.
So I call that truth. Do you say that people that you're most drawn to, it's because they're truth? They're not really expending a lot of energy to pitch to you. They're just, the pitch and them are the same. So it's like this truth that carries
authenticity. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think most of us who've been in the game a while, and while I've not been a GP for that long, I have been an investor for a very long time and a founder for even longer. And I have a really good bullshit meter because I pitched all day. I still pitch all day, every day, right? I'm pitching to investors myself, raising this fund. So I have a pretty good bullshit meter, and you give me 10 seconds and I'm like, nope. That's not for me. No, I wish I could do like a pitch, like a 1 minute pitch and just go through them that quickly. Cause I'm super efficient. Although I will say there have been times when a founder gets a few in and I'm like, oh, I get it now. Got it. I had actually one company called Kinemetrics, and that was the case. They're a slip and fall SaaS platform for hospital systems. And I'm like, oh, this is so boring. I'm never going to invest in this company. And by the end of the pitch, I was like, take my money. Her roadmap was so tight and polished. She had such great traction. I was like, mind blown. Like that was one of the ones that really surprised me, but that's pretty rare.
Interesting. Great roadmap, great pitch. Even a boring concept can be great. I want to ask you later, if you were a founder pitching
The numbers, right?
Right. That too. Can never forget that. I want to ask you later, if you were a founder and you could pitch yourself, what you would want to pitch and how you would do it. But before we get to that, to get back to your story, you mentioned that your dad was a hippie and that he lived in a commune back in the 60s. But it also, the whole 9 yards, but it also sounds like he was, successful in business on the first class flight, the story you were telling earlier. How did that shape who you are?
Well, he lived in the commune in Laurel Canyon, and so that's how I got my name. I'm literally Laurel from Laurel Canyon. I'm OGLA, as I like to say. I think the first part of it was that he was leaning into his skill set, which was relationships, as we were just talking about. And he was very successful early on, but he wasn't an operator. He wasn't efficient, and he wasn't really a planner. He was very much of a feast and famine kind of guy, right? Like we had all the things, we had the big houses, I went to private school, and then the bottom fell out. And I have to say, I think that I'm glad it happened. It was a really painful time, but I wouldn't be the person I am today if I just had a silver spoon in my mouth the whole time. So, you got to look at the silver lining. It was a very challenging and painful time, but it's taught me how not to be an operator, how not to manage money. But I still thank him for giving me the people skills, because I think, as we were again saying earlier, that's one of my greatest gifts. People are truly my gift, for sure.
So have you ever heard the concept that you choose your parents?
I have.
Do you think you chose your parents?
Ooh, I don't know. So it's a very weighted, very heavy question for me, because the man who my dad is now is not who he was when he raised me. He went through that illness, and I don't want to bring the conversation down, but he never really recovered from that, and it changed him as a human. And so I would say I chose who he was. I don't choose him now.
Huh. Interesting. early on.
Heavy.
That was very heavy. Yes. Now,
It's okay, but thank you, Frank.
that's a very honest answer.
Thank
And
you,
it's
thank
also amazing because there are many people I know who could not look back on past mistakes or past unpleasant circumstances with it almost sounds like you have an appreciative attitude towards it.
Definitely. I mean, I can say I'm an exited founder now. I can say a lot of things that surprise people. Like being a CEO at 26 is not an opportunity many people get. So while it was challenging and I cried and did all the things, that line item on my resume is the most shocking one to anyone I talk to. And they're like, first of all, I know the Basset brand, so it's a super recognizable national brand that they understand and can relate to. And doing that at such a young age builds in a little bit of kind of natural bravado, I think.
Absolutely.
Did you
Wait a minute. I've got the segue. Wait a minute. Speaking of being a CEO at 26, what mistakes did you make early on that were the most educational for you? It sounds like you've already described that from your dad, you learned how to clarify what you're really good at, that you learned how not to manage money, that you learned that you need to focus on surrounding yourself with the right people that augment your weaknesses. But are there any other, maybe one mistake or a couple that you made early on that were the most educational for you? It doesn't have to be business also. And then I promise I'll stop asking about mistakes.
No. I would say that probably the next mistake, because we've covered all of the business mistakes I made, and there were many, was more on the personal side. I don't think at that time I asked for enough support and help from people around me. I was probably drinking too many martinis every night. And I think that I may not have been as healthy emotionally, having been thrust into that scenario and dealing with my father going through cancer and having to do all the things I needed to do at such a young age for my family. And at that time, I was convinced that my whole life path was completely derailed because I was on this like very linear corner office partner track in a big firm. And I thought my life is over. So I think it was more on the emotional wellness side, which is a little woo, but hey, we talked about me being from hippie stock, so you had to expect a little of that, right?
I don't think there's anything woo about that at all.
Well, you are woo.
I am woo. I accept that.
Not you, him. He's woo.
I'm woo.
Oh, okay. That's why we like each other.
Yes.
That's right. Yes.
So
I can relate to having woo parents.
every time in my life, I've completely let go. Like, set the whole vision aside. But like really, not intellectually, totally. Every cell in my body, I'm exhausted, I'm done. I'm getting hit under the table for going here. Something extraordinary always happens beyond my expectation. Have you had that experience?
Every time. That's why they always say, like, don't stop.
Exactly.
Right? Like when you're at the cliff's edge, most people turn around, but if you keep going, the net appears.
Laurel, tell him not to edit that out.
I'm editing it out.
At this point in Laurel's story, she ends up selling her family's Basset Furniture franchises back to corporate. After the exit was complete and her dad had fully recovered from bladder cancer, Laurel turned her attention back to law and received many six-figure job offers. But she had a visceral reaction to the idea of returning to corporate law that signaled a corner office partner track was no longer her desired path. While receiving the job offers, Laurel did consulting for about a year and began to realize that it could become a career. That career continued developing, and in 2009, she founded her first company, Elevate My Brand.
Did someone push you to start the marketing agency, or was it just, what made you choose marketing?
Well, I have an MBA in marketing and digital specifically. I did the dual degree at Rutgers. Just didn't have enough letters after my name. You know, I needed the alphabet soup. so I was consulting. I was just kind of like a friend would be like, hey, talk to my friend Laurel. She knows all about marketing and she ran Basset Furniture and she ran all the marketing there too. So she knows how to help you with your retail brand. And at that point, I'm going to age myself now, new media was like the thing, right? Nobody knew what social was. Nobody knew what digital was. This was like a whole new era. And one client led to 2 clients, led to 5 clients. And by the end of that year, I was like, got it. This is actually a company. I can build this into something more. And at the same time, kind of concurrently, I was having those visceral experiences around getting those great law firm offers. My mother was so proud of me. Just my daughter, the lawyer. I mean, it literally, like, until probably 5 years ago, I was still my daughter, the lawyer. I think until my first Forbes article, she was like my daughter, the lawyer. And then she's like, my daughter, the agency CEO, you know? And now she finally understands a little bit about what I do on the venture side. But it was just the natural progression, the natural state of things. I got really lucky to be introduced to some interesting people that were building e-commerce businesses. And I had just enough chutzpah to say, yeah, I can build that. And so I built them these business plans and marketing models. My first client raised $5 million. She paid me $5,000 and raised $5 million. And was kind of off to the races after that.
Wow.
What did you take away from working with that first client that eventually snowballed into, you know, a marketing agency? You guys have worked with some of the biggest brand names that everybody knows. What did you take away from that first client?
And I can sell the shit out of anything.
What's the secret to that? Is it just chutzpah?
Pardon?
What's the secret to that? Is it just chutzpah?
Yeah, it's energy, it's vibe, it's
but your
it's
energy
vibration, not to get too woo.
No, that's fine. But your energy comes. I've heard all the woo, so be as woo as you want. But your energy comes across as genuine, where a lot of people's energy comes across as disingenuous. Well, I guess. How can you account for that? What if you just don't have that energy? Is it better to lean into it or to try to develop the energy? Is it a learnable skill or are you born with it?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I was born with it. And I also believe that you can do a lot of personal work. You know, if that's a path you want to go down and you're self-aware, to the earlier conversation, enough to know where you're not coming off authentically, or usually that happens when you're trying to do something and you just keep hitting a brick wall, right? Like you're not closing deals, you're not closing sales, you're not getting the jobs, you're not doing the thing that you want to be doing. You have to ask the question why, and authenticity is almost always the answer to that. Skill set or authenticity, both of which you can train on. And also sometimes just go get a W-2. You don't have to do this. Like, this is a much harder path. So in terms of entrepreneurship. So I think it's about the match of skill set, desire, expectation, self-awareness, all that stuff.
Do you think it's worth it?
For me, it is. I love it. I love and hate it all at the same time. It's the pleasure and the pain, the yin and the yang. I love the freedom in it. My husband's an entrepreneur as well, so we're both a little bit masochistic and really supportive of each other. So it's great to have someone that balances me in a lot of ways. For me, yeah, I'd say it's worth it.
That's amazing. We should bring that up in a future episode, how to find the right person to embark on these very painful and challenging journeys with you. But I want to ask you, what do you see a lot of small businesses get wrong with their marketing?
Not having processes around it. I think when you're early days as a founder, you're like, I've got this great idea and I've got all this energy around it. I'm just going to go execute. And then you end up having to backtrack. You don't have SOPs. You don't have brand guidelines. There's so much that has to go into building a brand from scratch, or a rebrand, or building a lasting brand, I should say. You know, brands that are around for a couple of years are a dime a dozen. Most companies, I think, fail. I think the number is like 2 to 5 years, something like that. There's a statistic in there. Some you guys can look it up. I don't know. But to build a lasting brand has to be done with intention. Ooh, sorry, my AC just went back on. To build a lasting brand takes a lot of intentionality and process and diligence and team. So I think what most startup brands get wrong is they're just throwing shit at the wall. There's a time and place for that. But if you really want to build a lasting brand, it has to be, people have to understand that marketing is an umbrella under which there are so many different things. Your website and e-commerce, your social media channels, your content and thought leadership, your PR media strategy. At the end of the day, the handle of that umbrella is visibility, sales, awareness, whatever your KPI is. But I would say early days, most companies, most startups aren't even tracking to any KPIs. They don't have any metrics that they're consistently measuring success or failure against, let alone doing it from an omni-channel marketing perspective. So my real answer to that is they haven't worked with a team that can show them the way earlier so they don't step in the shit.
How can they do that on a budget when they can't afford marketing yet?
Yeah, great question. And we've structured our process to help with both startups and blue chip brands. And it's the same. It's a 30-day process for any brand we work with. And I think even early days, you have to have some budget for something. Otherwise, you're not going to do anything. So whether that is bootstrapping with your savings or getting a line of credit or other institutional funding or maybe a crowdfunding campaign, like you have to have some budget. That's the biggest fail point, honestly, is not around marketing, although 80% of the success or failure of every consumer brand and most brands in general is around marketing. But it's about being underfunded, undercapitalized, right? Like they get so bootstrappy and so scrappy and they don't spend money and they're so scared and the company falls flat. There's so much competition out there in almost every channel. There's very few companies we see that are doing really, really unique things. Like that chip and brand I mentioned certainly is one of them, but most people are just trying to reinvent or build a better mousetrap. And in order to do that, you're doing what's called a conquesting campaign, which means you're pulling eyeballs from whoever is the leader in that space at that time, or whoever is one or two steps ahead of you. And in order to do that the right way, you have to do a shit ton of content. So you have to be a real thought leader in the space and build on-channel content, omni-channel. And you have to spend money. Like you have to spend money to get new users, eyeballs, conversions, et cetera. Advertising is really important. And you can do it in phases, right? I never tell people you have to spend a lot of money, but when we onboard a new client, we do that 30-day phase. It's part creative. It's a couple of hour-and-a-half sessions that are done on the Miro platform. We've built out these processes to really get down to understanding what's working and what isn't for these brands, to be very clear about goal setting and KPIs, et cetera, and then the creative piece. And then we have this whole data side. So we have this listening software that we use on both the agency and the fund, and that really helps to justify our reason for spend. So we then tell them after a listening phase of 30 days what their direct and aspirational competitors are spending in these different channels. So if you're not spending a tenth of that or any of that in any space, then you're never going to be able to capture market share. So you can wax philosophical on having the best mousetrap, but if you are not doing what needs to be done in order to capture that audience, because your competitors sure as hell are, you're never going to be successful.
So on the flip side of that,
But wait, how do you really feel about that?
you're right.
I mean, I've only done it for 400 brands,
Right, yeah.
Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
That was awesome.
Yes, that was. On the flip side of that, for the companies that do have the budget, why does Verizon choose Elevate My Brand over every other? There are a gazillion marketing agencies. What makes you different?
You're looking at it.
Right. But
Checks in the mail. You're not wrong, right? Like I'm the top salesperson at my company. No one can sell my company like I can.
Exactly.
And we deliver, right? You can't just be a great sales team. You have to actually we have our own SOPs and operational processes that are dialed, and our clients know that, and that's why we win out contracts. That's why we have clients like Verizon and Geico and Meta, because we communicate with the teams. They like us, right? We have a good time doing what we're doing. Like to your point earlier, like we actually enjoy the work,
right?
And we deliver. And the only way you can truly deliver is by having real processes in place, both for how you're going to approach and attack a scenario and how you're going to from both sides of the table agree on what success looks like. And I think that's a huge fail point, especially in agency land. Like people make things beautiful, they make things interesting, but there's no end delivery in terms of a KPI that's going to be delivering in terms of a marketing funnel. So we, in that process, in that startup 30 days, as I was describing to you, we make all of the decision makers, all of the stakeholders come to the table and agree, if these things happen, this is what success looks like. If this happens, everyone's a happy client, right? Because what then happens if you don't set goals and expectations is that you're always moving the goalpost. There's no metric of success where you can say, we did that. And so I think that's why our process and our personalities outshine.
I'm sure that there are reoccurring insights you share with the founders who you invest in. So I guess my goal is, if in these next few minutes, I'd like to make a video. This could become its own little video that you send to the new founders as like, here are Laurel's basics. Would that be useful to you or not really? It's too different for each founder.
I mean, there's certainly some things that are consistent. In fact, I think my marketing team, I'm going to go see if I can find it. My social grid just put together a thing that was like the top 5. Yeah, this is, if you want my money, you better bring it, honey. Here are the 10 things I've noticed appear on websites that are clearly startup signals that you might want to avoid if you're looking for funding. All right, I'll do the rundown. If you want my money, you better bring it, honey. Here are the top 10 things I've noticed appear on websites that are clear startup signals that you might want to avoid if you're looking for funding. Number 1, team showcase on the homepage. Usually you need a team, of course, but we want to know what the product is and why you're solving the problem first. 2, testimonials above the fold. That's not where the important words go. 3, way too much information on the homepage. Don't oversell it. Let the product speak for itself. Stock photography. This is one of my big ones. Like, there's no excuse for that. You can shoot anything with an iPhone these days. 5, generic calls to action messaging. So like, contact us, instead of having your energy, your branding, your messaging be a part of what those calls to action are. Every opportunity is a branding opportunity. 6, too much white space. You have this one vehicle, use it wisely. Basic, not custom iconography. That speaks for itself. 8, too many calls to action buttons on one page. You need people to do one thing. We are inherently kind of dumb as consumers, so you want to make sure you're driving them to one thing. 9, definitions of trademark text. We don't need to know that. And 10, your logo missing above the field. Again, branding 101.
Excellent. Yeah. That will be its own little clip. I was asking that question actually more as like business fundamentals or founder fundamentals. That was great for getting into the details of what your website needs to look like and those items.
I would say... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. So I just joined your fund. I'm sure there have been many of the there are many other companies that have joined your fund. I get a conversation, a call, or a video with Laurel. What basic lessons would you share with me?
Well, we talked about the creative piece, right? So making sure that your deck is tight and all of that. You need to leave white space in terms of the conversation. So I can't tell you how many founders I've met. It's just like verbal diarrhea at me for 30 minutes. And I'm just like, can I ask a question? Like, a lot of times I'll have to interrupt. If I'm interrupting and it's not a conversation, it's a barrage of information, you're not aware. Again, awareness to me, like the human elements of all of this, is almost equally as important as the product or service that you're providing. Because awareness means you're going to be clear about if a product is working or not, service is working or not, that you're hiring the right team, et cetera. I think I said this already, but making sure that you're also very clear about the things that you're solving for, because most startups don't have it all figured out. There are things along their timelines, their path to growth that they need to solve for, and having a really conscious awareness of that is super important to me. So, we know we've got the right idea and we've proven product market fit. What we need next is the right tech team to actually build this product, or we've hired kind of a rinky-dink tech team to build this kind of base model, but what we really need and why we're raising is because we know with the right engineers, we can build a model that really converts. That's on the engineering side, because that's what my husband does, so I'm a little biased to that. But I think those are a few of the things I would mention. And then the other piece that it boggles my mind that founders lack in is the follow-up. In fact, I invested in a founder who, before I wrote the check or did the transfer, because who writes checks anymore, I sent her an email and I said, I just have to tell you that the way that you've communicated with me, the follow-up, the persistency, but not the overwhelming, aggressive, are you in, are you in, are you in, was the most impactful. I mean, it was like impeccable. And I just had to say that as someone in communications and marketing, I've not ever had a founder communicate better with me.
How did she do that? What did she do?
It was a very simple cadence. It was not copy paste language. It was keeping me updated. So she knew my timelines were. And even though she knew that we weren't going to be writing a check until I think it was 3 months down that path, every single month, or maybe even every other week, she would send an update. Hey, just wanted to let you know, we just closed this deal. Hey, wanted to let you know, this VC just came in. We can't wait for you to be a part of this process. And then she would ask questions. She would ask for my feedback almost in real time. I was having this thought the other day about this as a marketing channel. Since it's your expertise, what do you think? So she kept me engaged the whole time for months before we ever wrote a check. And I think that
Wow.
most founders just have dollar signs in their eyes and they're like, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And it's more of a volume game, which it certainly has to be as well. But she was just like, the communication was it was elegant. It was easeful. It was a vibe. I can't say it any other way. She was a vibe.
Well, that's a golden nugget of information
Yeah, awesome.
for following up with people correctly, especially with cadence, because that's something I'm working on.
Well, I'll give you one more very tactical secret that I do. That is a piece that I give to most folks as well. You ready?
Ready.
This one's going to be worth its weight in gold. Let me clear my throat and get ready for this one. I hope this lives up to what I just said. So,
Drum roll.
The bar's very high now.
But remember, I always deliver. Whenever I'm on a call with someone and I think that there is an opportunity for us to do work together, for them to be an investor, whatever that is, I do this thing. I call it orbiting each other's universe. And it kind of goes like this. Hey, Julius, I really love what you're doing. I think that we would be a great fit in terms of you being an investor in fabric. I know now's not the right time, but I'm super intentional about my relationships. So I'm going to actually just move our current invite to 2 months out. So like October, does that work for you? So you're using an assumptive close. You're actually just making it so much easier to follow up. And then I always tell them, like, even if we need to push it, then we always have a touch base. And I do that with almost every relationship so that I don't have to think about it. They don't have to think about it. It makes it easier for my team. And it shows a great intention and thoughtfulness in terms of the cadence of follow-up.
Worth its weight in gold.
Awesome.
Yes. It was worth clearing your throat for
Awesome.
sure.
And make it your own. Like, maybe it's not as woo as orbiting each other's universe or whatever. But that's what's worked for me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And like I said,
I'm
the
stealing that
assumptive
and
close
I'm
is
using
very
it.
Powerful.
I'm stealing it and the assumptive close.
The only problem with it is that, like, especially in social world, because I do it with my friends too, so I make sure I keep my circle tight. If I decide I fall out of love with someone or I don't want to work with someone and I don't put it back on calendar, they're like, but wait, what, are we going to reschedule? And I'm like, my people will call your people. And then they know that they've been rejected. So it does have it can have some backlash. Just be careful with where you use it.
Noted. I will keep that in mind.
You've invested in 6 companies that have made it to IPO, and you've had 8 10x exits. What have you seen? How have you seen the founders that win think differently to defy the odds of failing, which most of them will?
Well, to be clear, that's my board, not just me. So I don't know where you got that stat from, but I want to make sure that
just
I don't want to take it.
Your website. It was on the Our Fabric page.
Teams page.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's more the team. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So to answer that question is really about the board of advisors and venture team that I've collected. So that was very intentional. When I launched the fund, I called about 12, 15 people, each of whom had an expertise in a different category that we were going to be focusing on. And I asked them to join the advisory board or the venture board. And almost every single one of them said yes. And so I think that's a fairer question for them. However, I will say, 35% of our current investment portfolio, which is 22 companies, have already raised their next series in less than 18 months. And so I think we just have a really good picker. We do our diligence. We have that second layer of diligence that's all marketing focused. And we think that really helps us de-risk our decision-making process, not just for us, but for our investors as well.
For someone who is considering allocating capital to Fabric, what is your vision and outlook for the futures of the industries that you invest in?
I think they're unstoppable. I mean, we are really investing in the future of these categories. And that's why we picked fintech, consumer tech, health tech. I think everything has a tech angle in this day and age. And if they don't, then they're going to be left behind. But let's just take the health tech side, for example. We do a lot in women's health. It's just having such a moment right now. I hope the moment never ends, but there is just infinite potential in investing in these categories because we as women carry so much of the financial power across all these industries, really, in how we allocate our capital, not to mention the fact that there's this huge wealth transfer happening. And we're also going to be in charge of the other side of the bench where we're investing with this new capital that we are in control of. So I think we're going to be unstoppable. It's really why we did this as a proof of concept fund. I didn't know I was going to love this work as much as I do. And so our long-term goal will, as I mentioned, go raise a bigger fund next year, but we want to do $500 million to $1 billion AUM in the next 10 years. So watch us go. Try and stop us.
Well, we'll have to check in and just stay updated on the progress. I will clearly step out of your way. Hopefully I'll step into the behind the scenes and be able to help in some way.
Welcome to join us. If you want to be on the smart side of history, you'll come in and be an investor in Fabric, we hope. We welcome you.
Keep that in mind. Where do you see even sophisticated investors go wrong when choosing a VC to work with? Where do people make mistakes?
Oh, that's an easy one. They just follow the same old, the pale, male, and stale that's always been doing the same shit the same way. The returns aren't even that great. I mean, if you look at the A16Zs of the world, et cetera, like everyone's just throwing money at what they think everyone else should be doing. And it's just so tired. So they don't want to take real risk, but they're also not getting real returns and they're not making any kind of change. And the change is coming whether they want it to or not. So we're just excited to be a part of it.
I guess I'd like to ask you another question about being able to sell anything, being able to, quote, sell the shit out of anything. Other than authenticity, is there any other secrets to doing that?
Yeah. Making your offering, shutting up, listening, and repeating back what you believe you hear from the other person. I think a lot of salespeople just like, here's the offer and this is what it's going to do for you. You make the offer and then you sit back. You don't bid against yourself. You don't negotiate against yourself. You don't show signs of weakness when you are selling. It's this is the offer. If it's a fit for you, great. If not, not. And I will tell you, that really was hard for me when I started raising the fund, because I was like, oh my God, I'm begging people for money. This is so uncomfortable. And as soon as I realized that it was just an opportunity, a different marketing opportunity of a different product, really, that was when everything changed for me. And it wasn't me like feeling desperate and smelling of desperation, frankly, I'm sure, but it was look, this is what we're doing. We're making really great strides. Now we have a bit of a track record. If this is a fit for you, great. If not, if you could introduce us to 1 or 2 folks, we have a copy paste blurb, and we've done that and gotten this really amazing ripple effect that's happened even for folks that haven't been a fit for us. So that is my, I guess, secret to success. And let's be very clear. Like I got a lot more no's than I get yeses, but that's the only way to get to a yes.
Exactly.
In closing, we have 2 questions because this has been going for quite a while now. Is there one story that had an outsized impact on who you are today that you wish you could have heard when you were first starting out? Something that you went through?
And a story that someone told me, or one of my stories that I wish I'd I'm a little unclear of the question.
Okay. So a story that if there's an experience that you wish someone could have told you the story when you were younger or when you were starting out, yeah, you know what? I don't like that. I'm editing that.
No, I got it. I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it.
I think
you got it? Okay.
Yes, I get it.
Okay. I think it's not as much a story as it is a saying, and it's a saying that I now pass on to anyone. I literally had this conversation twice this week with 2 women who came to me and wanted advice on building their companies. And I'm going to curse. So again, I apologize. I do have a potty mouth, but I always tell people, everyone's fucking faking it. So don't let anyone intimidate you. Everyone's just trying to figure it out day after day. That's it.
That's it.
Some people fake it better than others, though.
I mean, don't you think?
And then we have one closing tradition on this show. The former guest leaves a question for the incoming guest. Have you heard of Judge Frank Caprio?
I have, but I can't place it.
He's the compassionate judge. He's known as the nicest judge in the world. He actually just passed away. His
wake was today.
His wake was today. Tomorrow. His funeral was tomorrow. So he left this question for you. What have you done today to help someone?
I had a call with a girl so I speak on a lot of panels. I'm at a lot of conferences, and I was supposed to be at a conference here in LA. And I got asked to speak at a panel at the WNBA All-Stars event this year. So I had to cancel my attendance at one conference as an expert, and I flew out to Indianapolis. And because I missed the conference here in LA, there were a lot of women who wanted FaceTime with me. I was doing 15-minute segments for the whole day, actually for 2 days, that it didn't get time with me. And so my offer was for anyone that wanted 15 minutes of my time, 20 minutes of my time, that they could reach out to me post-conference and I would make time for them. And there was a young woman today who I spoke with, who was at that conference, who was building her first product. And I gave her almost 30 minutes of real feedback. Some of it probably was hard for her to hear. But at the end of it, she was like feverishly scribbling the whole time. So I like to think there was some positive impact there and some great takeaways. And I try and say yes to anyone who, again, is a junior person who needs some time and some expertise, because I think I like to guide people and teach people. My mother was a kindergarten teacher for 50 years. So I feel like it's our gift and our responsibility to give back.
What a wonderful answer. Are there any questions that I didn't ask you that I should have?
No, it's been an hour and a half. I think we've asked all the questions.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the WildWhy Show with Laurel Mintz. To conclude this episode, I'd like to leave you with the following quote from Tony Bennett. It sounds so simple, but if you just be yourself, you're different than anyone else. See you all in our next episode. Thanks for watching.